Hello, Virgo. Welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. I'm not really surprised to see you wanting to come out the day after, or actually, I'm recording this on the day of the Pisces new moon. There's something, there's always a connection between the new moon and then the full moon and the opposing sign, but there seems to be something extra this time. And it may be because this is the first time it's happening when the nodes are in Pisces and Virgo. There's also a strong connection happening between Pisces and Aries. So connections. The card that came out for you is this Great and Full. It's one of my favorite cards in this deck. It's part of the root chakra set. This deck is organized into 7 cards for each of the 7 chakras, and this belongs to the root. So feeling great and full. The scene underlying is seeing beyond, actually with earth magic right below that. And then the unseen is into me, I see. And together this is seeing beyond how you have seen yourself up until this point. We can form an image of ourselves, and then it can kind of become ossified or rigid. And we form this identity. But this is an opportunity for you to see beyond that. And I think that maybe it's going to be challenging. That it's going to, I think it's going to be uncomfortable, possibly. Maybe not for all of you. It might depend on how much of this you've done, how much of, kind of seeing beyond you've already done. But we have here this 5 of Wands. Now, when I was deciding, or listening, I should say, I listened to hear which sign wants to have a reading. And what drew my eye today was this Hermit card on the top of this Tarot de la Nuit deck. And this is a very atypical Hermit. There's a lot of the Magician energy in this Hermit. There's this, flaming red star in her lantern. And it sort of looks as if she's creating it. That she's focused on it and she's used her mind to light this fire. She's got this crow going on here. She is, right, her dress is not typical of the Hermit ideal. There's an erotic quality to her, both in her clothing and the way she's standing and this red flame. And it may be that you haven't, thought of yourself in these terms. Certainly the vision of Virgo is something sort of buttoned down. Or buttoned up. And the idea of Virgo as someone who's, very picky or has kind of a, obsessive idea about order, or, you know, who's very judgmental, someone who's very organized and detail oriented, and so maybe you haven't seen this more free-flowing kind of Virgo. This Virgo who is plugged in to the planet, to the life force of the planet. Virgo is an earth sign, though you have Mercury as your guiding planet now. Mercury is in Aries, right? A fire sign, ruled by Mars, who's now moving forward, is going to enter Leo. I think in late March, early April, he re-enters Leo. And Venus is also doing, right, she's in Aries. And both Mercury and Venus are going to retrograde through Aries and into Pisces, opposing Virgo. They're both going to conjunct the North Node, and therefore they're going to oppose the South Node. So there's a strong possibility of dismantling stereotypes that you have, or just the identity that you have for yourself. And this isn't to say that, you know, this identity is wrong or bad, but that it's too narrow. Right? So this, right, Five of Wands, and there's these, right, these two people. And I'm seeing this now as your, you know, kind of your identity self. You could call it the ego self. I don't really like to use that word because it's got a lot of baggage. Right? Your kind of conscious identity, and then the other possibilities. The other way that you could express. Below that is the Five of Swords, more energy of conflict, and this time in the mind. But below those two, we have Justice. Here in her red dress, Venus, possibly in Aries. Moving back and forth, Aries to Pisces and back again. She doesn't make it to Taurus until June 6th. And she seems here to be a peacemaker. Someone who can bring harmony to what may be an internal struggle. The bottom of the deck is Strength, right, more of this sense of, you know, self and other, maybe the intellectual self, as opposed to the body and a sense of one's animal self. There is a real idea of integration, and actually next to this Strength card is this Ace of Pentacles. I've been prattling on about the difficulties with doing, you know, parts work, where you see yourself as having these parts, you know, your inner child and your inner critic and your inner adventurer and all of these things. And that it can have, you know, sort of positive effects, but if it goes on too long or gets too accepted, then, you know, you can end up really fragmented. Still, that the aim is to integrate, to see yourself as a whole being. And that you may have different desires and different motivations, that you have different ways that you can be in different situations, but that it is all still you, wholly you. And I think this relates in part to this left brain, right brain thing that I also prattle on about. That the left brain tends to break things down into pieces, likes to see things individually rather than as a whole, prefers the map to the actual landscape, and that this way of thinking pervades even the spiritual sphere. And I've been drawn more and more into this notion of wholeness, of the blurring of borders. I feel that way too about the chakras, actually, that we can get too, right? We can separate that out too much. To me, they seem, rather than independent, that they're more like a continuum. And then maybe I do have a Virgo South Node. So it may be that this is a Virgo Pisces balancing. The Virgo does like particularity. It does like some borders around things. Whereas Pisces likes no borders at all. And finding that the middle space, or the, that one can flow back and forth across this continuum. And this Nine of Wands looks a little skeptical to me. I feel like I'm talking about this and you're kind of looking at me like, I don't know, can I really be that? And this card says, yes. I mean, actually, you're sort of showing up here both as the Nine of Wands and then also as this Knight of Pentacles, which is your court card generally. And you're both kind of reacting to to this Hermit, and also, right, but here in this Two of Cups, right, this back to back, you and your wider self integrating, right? You are identical here. There aren't two different people. This is about a joining up of this. And that part of what has to be released is this Seven of Pentacles. This is actually a Taurus card, traditionally. But in this particular deck, there is kind of a Virgo feeling to it. The feeling of driving oneself really hard, which doesn't always appear in the Seven of Pentacles. There's, right, the red shoes, which force their wearer to dance to death. This black swan, who's damaging herself. In the full moon reading that I did, the Virgo energy was being asked to help release just kind of society as a whole. And I think that's what happens with the South Node as it passes through a sign. People with a strong amount of energy in that sign may find themselves in this position of helping to release others, of leading by example, essentially. It's not that you have to solve everybody's problems, or that you take the energy into your body and transmute it, which I think is, I don't approve of it. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's I think we like it as an idea. It's self-sacrificial. It's actually kind of Piscean in that way. There's a martyr aspect to that. I think Virgo can have that a little bit too. The sense of duty that can go with Virgo. And all of this wants to be moderated and eased and lightened now. So this next card, interestingly, is not coming through as a snow globe, but as a crystal ball. And so all of these cards here are what can be if you allow this integration, if you allow yourself to release self-identities, self-concepts, you know, any kind of rigid holding that you may have about yourself. So right underneath we have prosperity. The bottom of the deck is the bluebird of happiness. We have this bluebell gratitude card with this kind of beautiful rain of light. We have eagle spirit with freedom. Also an ability to see things from a higher perspective. And then the secret spring of success. So there's all this possibility that is available, that wants to be seen, that wants to be allowed to come into being. And it's like all these things are just waiting on the other side of the door for you to open the door. Now we have here valor, and below that this Queen of Swords. And I actually associate the Queen of Swords often with Virgo. Her capacity for discernment, that mind that goes with Mercury, but then also the earth that goes with the Queen archetype. And then below both of these is pleasure, the Princess of Cups, and I'm going to go one more. Oh, actually, I'm going to go two more. We have this Queen of Discs, Venus and Taurus, and then happiness. Then the bottom of the deck is the Two of Wands with Dominion. And there's something here. You know, this valor is Mars in Leo. But I think that it's perhaps an old way of thinking. That Mars in Leo doesn't necessarily mean that there needs to be a fight. I think that it can be valorous to not fight. It can be valorous to try something new. To move away from a previous way of thinking and being, and to allow newness in your life. So we have the Six of Swords, earn success. And I think that, you know, that's another sort of Virgo feeling thing. Also a little bit of Capricorn, right? That you have to earn your success. That things that come easily are somehow worth less than things that you really had to work for. That you may only be able to accept that which you feel you earned. You know, or maybe that you deserve. This can also lead to judgment about other people having things that you feel like they haven't earned or deserved. But beyond that is apathy. I think this kind of tight, sharp way of seeing things is a little, right, it's kind of demoralizing and can lead to this state of apathy, to a state of feeling, you know, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and, you know, people are having things they don't deserve, and the deserving aren't having, and, you know, maybe there's nothing I can do about it. It's too big a problem, all of these things. And that can lead to a state of despair, of apathy, that, you know, maybe you feel like you've earned more than you have. But then we have this ace, the root of the power of air. The new mental paradigm. Followed by the high priestess, Pisces. Pisces, the moon also. Seeing beyond. Seeing into eternity, I want to say. And that it is always available to you. Even if you've got, you know, some Virgo stellium. North Node in Virgo, lots of Virgo. That Pisces energy is still there in your chart. Available to soften and widen your view. So then we have this Ten of Swords, which has just started talking to me about messages. So this is not now this card looking to me like an ending. This is looking to me like all of these messages arriving. They may be coming to you when you're asleep. They may be coming in dreams or during meditation or divination, or, you know, whenever your non-physical selves, fellowship, guarded guides, whatever you want to call it, talk to you. That these messages are really wanting to come in. The bottom of the deck is Justice repeating. And it seems to me that she may be part of, right, she's sort of representing this non-physical collective, right? She was up there making peace between you and your wider self, between you and your souls, or, you know, creating integration within you so that you could be a whole being. That you could start seeing from that wider perspective, right, with this Freedom card. And then below the Ten of Swords is the Fool, and actually I'm seeing right now the Tower, and the Fool dancing right towards the Tower. I mean, it may be that you have some concerns that if you know, stray off the narrow path, stray off the path you've designated for yourself, if you fail in your duty, if you don't fulfill all of your obligations and commitments and everything down to the very letter, that things will just fall apart. That everything, you know, that there'll be some sort of tower moment. And I believe these messages are wanting to get something else through. So we have the Chariot here. In this version, always making me think of Ganesha. The remover of obstacles. And then Temperance. And this Temperance feels very Ace of Cups to me because she has this single bowl, this single vessel here. And then the Emperor. But he's kind of he's a little bit of a wild emperor, right? He's got this erotic nature going as well. His throne is, it's got this star thing behind that's kind of giving him this star crown. He has wings. He's kind of an earth angel. His eyes are closed. The seeing into eternity. And then the Two of Cups repeats. The combining, the blending, right, into, right, there's a single vessel. You are a single vessel. You are a whole being. You have your whole, right, your whole natal chart. You have all of the elements, all of the signs are available to you. Yes, some things may come more easily. You may have tendencies, susceptibilities, strengths, talents, gifts. But you are not in, you're not required. That's not the word I want. You're not restricted. That's the word I want. You're not restricted to this narrow space that maybe you have created for yourself. And it can take practice. If you're used to moving out in the world and communicating with people in a particular way, it can take a little practice to loosen up and allow yourself to meet people in a different way than you have before. I remember thinking, there was this, at a job that I had, there was this new coffee place that opened up. And I went there. And they used to ask you for your name. And my middle name is really easy to both say and spell. So usually when that happens, I give people my middle name. And I had this idea, when I went in there, they would call me, right? They started to get to know me and they would call me by that middle name. And it was like I had kind of an opportunity to be a different person. I don't think I really took advantage of that. I also left the job not too long after this realization, but it was kind of like, I could be, a woman of mystery, the adventurous, the, secret agent, but, whatever, right? There's probably something that's been wanting to be seen. Some aspect of yourself. Maybe that is like this sloshing cup. that wants to be overflowing. So, advice. Four of Wands with a Hierophant right underneath, right? It's a wedding. It is a wedding, a union. Below that, we have the High Priestess showing up again, right? Her blessing, her, right? It's like she's arranged this union. And then actually below that is the Ten of Swords repeating, this time in its more usual sense of an old self being allowed to die. But I would say not an old self, but the old idea of the self. The old, more narrow view of self. And then the bottom of the deck has the Seven of Pentacles repeating. But rather than the kind of driving of the self, we have this rising energy. So a different idea of the Seven of Pentacles. An idea of growth and expansion. And then we have this arrangement that wanted to come out in part because of the space limitation I have, but I can see if I can hold it up. So there's this Five of Swords, and then there's these two pages, these two princesses of Cups and Wands. So this, this feels like a mental change, right? This Five of Swords repeating, but instead of being confrontational, as it is in this card, it is constructive, right? He is hammering out the new sword. And that was just 32.23 on the timer. I don't always notice these things, but which is 5/5, as well as mirroring. Right? So there's these two ladies, right? She's the lady, the princess, the Page of Cups, kind of getting her cup in order on her head. And this Page of Wands getting used to this new wand. Right? You had a wand for a long time. You've been carrying it around. Maybe you've used it really more as a walking stick. Maybe you had no idea that it was a wand. You've been carrying it around, using it as a walking stick. Maybe you've been really concerned about keeping the light going. This kind of Vesta energy that you were the only one. You had to keep it lit. There was nobody else. And now I think you're understanding that the fire isn't solely up to you. That this wand is connected directly, just as you are, right down through your root chakra into the universe itself, into source. You are connected. And as you allow this union, this integration to happen between sacred and mundane, between spiritual and, the things you do in your daily life, between obligations and dreams, between dreaming and doing, all of those sort of Pisces, Virgo, axis things. That as you allow that integration, you will become more and more free. And you will have more and more access to these forces and energies of creation, to happiness, prosperity, gratitude, freedom, success, vision, growth, expansion. Jupiter has been moving square your sign as he moves through Gemini. It is also Mercury's space, so although Virgo and Gemini are square, they do have some, right? They have some things in common as Taurus and Libra do. But now, starting in early June, I want to say like June 11th or 12th, Jupiter moves into Cancer, where he will sextile Virgo. And I was actually looking at this yesterday, and I think it's going to be a really smooth transition, because on the day that Jupiter moves into Cancer, Mercury is already there and has been for several days. So already Mercury, who rules Gemini, has been in the Cancer space. And also on that day when Jupiter moves, the moon is in Sagittarius. So Jupiter and the moon are mutually receptive, each in each other's home. So I think that Jupiter's move into Cancer is going to be really smooth and beautiful. And there will be a conjunction also of Mercury and Jupiter a little bit before then in Gemini. So I think there's a real possibility of this, right? Great and full. And your job is to allow the union to occur, to allow yourself to expand beyond what you have believed yourself and seen yourself as, what you believed yourself to be and seen yourself as. I think it's exciting, Virgo. I hope you're excited. And though it may be a little uncomfortable at first, I think you're just going to flow right into it over the course of the next, sort of year and change, as the Virgo South Node moves through I wish you all the very, very best, Virgo. And I will see you next time. So long.